what do you say to, okay, that small block of people that says, okay, if you raise taxes and prices of cigarettes, kawawa naman the people who can't afford it to smoke because it's their only joy in life. I've heard that argument,
Yes.
that they're gonna
I've heard
die
it too.
anyway, so let them smoke. What can you say to that? Imagine that they're gonna die anyway, so let them smoke.
The people who say this don't know what it's like to be poor and smoke. Because it's like saying, well, if they want to kill themselves, well, let them. They're gonna die anyway. Let them have some enjoyment. But when you're sick of a tobacco-related disease, you're dying of cancer, you have a heart attack, you're paralyzed because of a stroke, it's not fun anymore. Your quality of life is really down the drain. So in essence, what you're saying when you say let the poor smoke is they're poor, they can't afford to eat, they can't afford to send their children to school, they don't have a house over their heads, and yet you want them to get sick. You want them to pay for medication.
Emmer was saying earlier that when you're rich and you get sick, you can afford to you can afford to go to the doctor more. You won't always be safe, but you can afford to prolong your suffering now. Go to the doctor, get treated for cancer, and you're lucky, things like that, or these other diseases that come about in large part due to smoking. But when you're poor, what happens? You just suffer, and then you.
A few years ago, WHO and DOH did a study, an economic study, and among the poor and poorest families in our country, there's more spent on cigarettes than is spent on education, or healthcare. So it's really something that they can do without.
My thing is, okay, I don't want to. I think there's a thin line between deciding for people and encroaching on individual rights. But maybe we should also tell them, those who can't afford or who are under the poverty line, or the people who we call poor, or they can't afford things, or impoverished. That, do you know what you're smoking? Do you know what they've put in it? As you said, the campaign for awareness. Because to them, it's just a cigarette, something they turn to at the end of the day. Costs a few pesos maybe for a stick. But, do you know what's in it? Do you know that they've targeted you to get you addicted? So that if you want to stop, in a way, they're also taking away your choice from stopping. Because it's hard to quit.
Right.
Because there are really addictive substances in it.
I mean, if you really want to smoke and you know really what it does, then that's your choice. Nobody should stop you from exercising your freedom. But if you don't know, then it's not really a rational choice.
And part of what you really want is for people to know, no? You want them to know what's in it. You were saying earlier, we don't know the ingredients of a cigarette. They don't put it on the label.
There are no ingredients that are listed on a tobacco packet. And it's the only consumer product in the world that has no ingredients. Even the most well-kept trade secrets of Coca-Cola, McDonald's, whatever, they all list their ingredients. Why not cigarette packs?
I was saying earlier, you even know what's in alcoholic drinks, and that is legal, but substance, controlled substance. You know that there's hops and barley, and
how much sugar is in it.
Yeah, the alcoholic
flavorings.
content. Yeah, they're not allowed to sell in certain places or in bars, and if it's above. The alcohol content, things like that. And you were saying that we don't know the ingredients of cigarettes. Okay.
And the tobacco industry fights so that people don't know. They really intentionally will keep this private, not share it with the public, because they know when the public finds out, the public will, really take to the streets and say, "Why have you not told us what's in the cigarettes? These are harmful." We were talking about the movement 40 years ago in the US when the Surgeon General said smoking causes cancer. At that time, the tobacco industry knew that nicotine was addictive.
But they didn't say it.
And when the CEOs of the tobacco companies appeared in court, in Congress actually in the US in the 90s, each of them said, "I do not believe nicotine is addictive." This was 30 years after they knew, after the fact. So it's really a conspiracy against the people, against smokers actually. So talagang binibiktima yung mga smokers.
Yeah. Okay, we're actually out of time, and Patrick Tulfo is going to come on next with Heart Talk. But is there anything else you'd like to say, or any parting shots, any message you'd really like to hammer on and impart to the listeners out there?
Well, two things. One is cigarettes are a legal product. Yes, the tobacco industry says that, but it is the only legal product. When used as intended, kills half of all users. No other product does that. So if you are thinking about smoking, young people, please don't start. Second, to our friends in government and our not so friendly people in government, you have a duty to protect public health. Please do your job. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to realize that the taxes we receive from tobacco, from cigarettes, is very small. We actually spend 5 or 6 times as much on healthcare related to cigarette-related diseases. Let's save that money. Let's use it for sending our children to school, for feeding our people, giving them homes. Let's do what's right.
Okay. Thank you for being with us today, Doc Yul. That's Dr. Ulysses
Thank
Dorotheo.
you, Nicole.
Like
Thank you,
Ulysses,
Terry.
like the adventure, the Greek adventure. The Odysseus in the Roman became Ulysses. Okay. And Ulysses S. Grant. Maybe we'll talk about him tomorrow. No, just kidding. Okay. Hello to Lita Ramos, who's out there listening, and Mrs. Mercado. And maybe you'll call in tomorrow with your comment. But thank you for being here today, Doc Yul.
Thanks very much for having
Come back
us.
soon to remind us not to smoke.
I'll do that.
Thanks for joining us today. You've been listening to etc. right here on Dzrj810am, the voice of the Philippines. Stay tuned for Patrick Tulfo.
Dzrj 810 AM, the voice of the Philippines.